Opinions about the Lava Ridge Wind Project are getting a lot louder, and some of that volume is coming from Senator Jim Risch, who made his point loud and clear at a committee hearing this week. What if instead of recycling your cans for free, you could return them for money? Well, you can do that in Oregon, just not if you're from Idaho. We can all use a little good news, and a lot of us even have some of it to share. Several of you shared it with us today, so we're sharing it with everyone else.
So what have you found out?
We're going to continue to engage.
What did you find out?
Well, I think the conversations are ongoing, Senator.
Well, what did you find out so far?
All right, well, that's Idaho Republican Senator Jim Risch playing offense there on what was a mostly one-sided conversation yesterday. It was during the Senate Energy and Natural Resource Committee hearing where Senator Risch told Interior Secretary Haaland he was going to focus on one thing and one thing only, and that would be the Lava Ridge Wind Project. It's a massive plan to put a wind farm just outside the Minidoka incarceration camp, like 400 wind turbines on nearly 200,000 acres, according to the Bureau of Land Management. Risch and the rest of his congressional delegation, including Idaho's entire legislature and Governor Brad Little, they all oppose this project. And as Risch points out, and Andrew Bartline learned, a BLM report backs him up.
For a Senate hearing, Idaho Senator Jim Risch
what Idahoans want.
did a lot of talking, all for the Biden administration to catch wind of his top concern concerning federal lands.
I want to focus on one thing today, one thing and one thing only, and that is the Lava Ridge Wind Turbine Project in Idaho. Have you heard of it?
Heard of it?
Yes, I believe
U.S.
so.
Secretary of the Interior Deb Haaland
Senator,
oversees the Department of Interior, trickling down to the Bureau of Land Management. That's where Magic Valley Energy proposes up to 400 wind turbines across nearly 200,000 acres of land, just outside the Minidoka National Historical Site internment camps. Magic Valley Power is owned by New York-based LS Power. Risch opposes the project.
And you didn't know anything about it, but that you were going to look into it. Is that a fair statement?
And this interaction
yes, I suppose.
isn't exactly
So what have you found out?
considered friendly.
Thank you, Senator. And,
You don't need to thank me. Just answer the question.
well, thank you for
What were you wanting to get out of that?
Well, I wanted to get a legitimate exchange with her about how she felt about it and what the agency was doing about it. And what you saw was what we always get from the bureaucrats.
going to continue to engage.
What did you find out?
That is
Well, I think
not much. You have to prod them pretty good to get an idea of where they're going and to deliver the message.
And that message is pretty clear.
And so I'm telling them, take advice from your own people and don't do it.
In March, the Idaho Resource Advisory Council finished their subcommittee report,
They're the ones that create this advisory.
advising specifically on tribal perspectives, historical preservation, wildlife, recreation, grazing. For every single category listed, the council recommended Alternative A, to not build any wind farm.
What did you find out?
But Senator Risch
well, I think the conversations are ongoing, Senator.
Well, what did you find out so far?
can't get it out of her.
Nothing?
The conversations are ongoing.
By the end of the hearing, Risch just hopes they started listening.
The message is loud and clear from Idahoans. And I want to deliver that message to the administration and to these people that are going down the wrong path.
The Bureau of Land Management says they have received 11,000 comments from their 90-day feedback period, and that period ended just at the end of last month. That was in April. And these comments will be made public sometime this summer, hopefully in the next month when I talked with BLM. And the final environmental impact study, just a draft is out right now. That's not going to be finalized until this winter, and it's going to look through all the different proposals. Like there's a major proposal, then there's the option to not do anything. There's a lot of different options. They think by next winter they're going to have an idea of what they're looking at for the final draft.
Okay, so it's still a ways out, but if the governor, the legislators, the congressional delegation, and even the BLM say this is a no-go, why we have to wait that long? I know it's a bureaucracy thing and it takes that long, but I guess I don't see how this goes beyond that.
Well, this is just one subcommittee of this whole entire project. Okay. BLM as an overall organization didn't say this is a no-go. This specific subcommittee said we don't support this for these reasons in these specific categories.
Gotcha. Okay, that clears it up. All right, thank you very much, Andrew. You know, there are several reasons Idahoans might cross the border into Oregon, to sidestep some sales tax, to encounter cannabis. But how about for bottle service? Well, the Beaver State is really big on recycling. It has a policy. Return your bottles and cans and get a nice little return for yourself, like 10 cents per these days. Idaho doesn't do that. And that's some pretty good coin for someone who just had a party in, I don't know, let's say Payette, and all of a sudden has a lot of empties to unload. But as Joe Paris tells us, Oregonians have a way to keep Idahoans from cashing in and crushing their recycling program.
Since 1972, the state of Oregon has had a bottle deposit system aimed at encouraging less litter and more recycling. In short, the so-called Oregon Bottle Bill set up a system in Oregon where people pay a deposit on eligible containers that can be redeemed if that bottle is recycled. Right now, the deposit in return is 10 cents. Idahoans who live in Oregon border towns have an interesting angle into the conversation. Can they hop over the border and get 10 cents per Idaho bottle? Bottles that were bought in Idaho, deposit free, make 10 cents a bottle? Newman and Kramer tried this with the Michigan system on Seinfeld.
You could round up bottles here and run them out to Michigan for the difference.
That doesn't work. Hey, you're not talking that Michigan deposit bottle scam again.
No, I'm off that.
You tried it?
Oh, yeah, every which way.
Well, this is a thing Oregon has to watch. Just ask Eric Chambers, Vice President of Strategy and Outreach at Oregon Beverage Recycling Co-op.
There's a number of containers purchased at stores in Idaho, so they never have an Oregon deposit that's paid on them. Those containers make their way back into the Oregon system, and Oregonians are paying the refund value out on containers that never had a deposit paid.
So, no, we didn't find a billion-dollar side business for Idahoans. Oregon border towns protect the integrity of their program by taking some extra bottle verification steps.
In many cases, that could be as easy as, an address that shows that a person lives in, Payette or Caldwell or Weiser, and the closest grocery proximity to those communities is in Ontario, and there's, it's reasonable to assume that those are Oregon containers, so that could work. For folks who live a little further out, we might ask for some receipts, a proof of purchase that just shows that there was shopping done in Oregon, the beverages were purchased.
In terms of enforcement, Chambers says that they try to work hard and educate people who are working to get their bottle returns in border towns. But of course, there is a law on this topic.
For out-of-state containers, it's a pretty big violation to do that, and it would be, certainly good for. I know that Idahoans don't want to, violate Oregon law, and so I think knowing that containers purchased in Idaho are not redeemable in Oregon is important information.
People who try and redeem out-of-state bottles could be fined up to $250. That's a newer Oregon law, 2019 to be exact. Over in the state of Michigan, though, their laws are far more serious. Just in case you were wondering, violators in Michigan can face a $5,000 fine or 5 years in prison for returning containers. So Newman, Kramer, don't go there. Advocates for the Oregon Bottle Program say a simple fix for the border situation, parallel policy between Idaho and Oregon.
They make a huge difference. The national average recycling rate for beverage containers is around 35%. In 2022, Oregon's preliminary redemption rate was 88.5%. So a massive difference in recycling performance that cuts down on litter. And, again, Oregon's system is a producer responsibility system that doesn't cost $1 of taxpayer funds.
So to be very clear, it's not about being an Idahoan. It's about having a product, a bottle that you didn't buy in Oregon that you're bringing over the border. So I think that makes sense for everyone. But Brian, I know that there's some confusion sometimes on these bottle systems. They're not available in every state. You're paying the deposit when you buy the product. Yes, you are. You're not just getting an extra 10 cents for free. So it's a return deposit.
It is a return deposit. And that parallel program, what are the chances of Idaho adopting a similar program?
I mean, I haven't talked to anyone from the state of Idaho about it today, but I think we can both guess about what the policy decision would be there. But Brian, we will start asking those questions because that's what we do on the 208.
All right. Thank you very much, Joe. All right. Speaking of return on investment, Idaho Gives, Idaho's largest fundraising event of the year, is going on right now. So this is the time we want to take a look and see what you're doing to help raise money on this third day of the giving event. Let's see what we're looking at right now. Look at that. We broke $2 million today. We're up to $2,209,000. A little more than that. That's amazing. More than 600 organizations are benefiting from this. Last year, more than 13,000 of you put in more than $3.6 million for 672 nonprofits. Again, we're going to try to beat that this year. We got until tomorrow. We're a little bit past 2 million, I should say. So if you want to help out, we got a complete list of nonprofits participating this year. And if you also want to donate, you got to go to idahogives.org or ktvb.com. You can donate now through tomorrow. Any guesses what Idaho's highest paid employee does for a living? Well, would you believe it ain't coaching football, at least not these days. A simple mistake made for a jaw-dropping discovery. It's that time again. Yep, we want you to text us your comments, your questions, and I guess any complaints you might have. All you got to do is send them to the number on your screen, 208-321-5614. Don't forget your name and the hashtag the 208. That way, we know it's for us, and we know who it's from, and we can read it at the end of the show. Here's an example of you don't always find what you're looking for, but sometimes you find something better. A little like the Stones lyric, but not really. Yesterday, one of our digital content producers, Zach Armstrong, was trying to find the salary of Boise State tennis coach Luke Shields. Not sure why, but doesn't matter. But Zach went searching on the Transparent Idaho website because that's where you can find out how much state employees are paid. And when he made it to the page listing the state's highest paid employees, guess who was sitting at the top? Okay, so usually in most states with public universities, that position would be held by the head football coach. And yeah, that's how it works. And making almost $1.5 million, Boise State's Andy Avalos is on that list, but not in the #1 spot. And you can imagine our shock and dismay when we saw the name Whitney Asquena Bolt. Whitney Asquena Bolt, just above Coach Avalos' name, making $4.1 million a year. What? A project manager with the Department of Correction is making more than $4 million a year? Well, no, because the shock of that revelation led to more than a few spit takes and turned over chairs in the newsroom, and we reached out to the state controller's office to find out what exactly Miss Asquena Bolt does to earn that kind of cash. We were immediately told by Brandon Wolf, yeah, that's a typo. You are correct. The agency has put in a retention bonus for this employee, and instead of putting that dollar amount as their hourly rate, it went into the, yeah, okay. It has since been corrected and will be fixed in Transparent Idaho when the next payroll runs. It would have been fun to say that she was helping coach football and Adam Sandler against the guards, but that isn't the case, said Brandon Wolf, which is a nice longest yard reference. So we had to know what Whitney thought about this. We wanted to know what it was like to make more money than 4 Andy Avaloses, but she wasn't comfortable going on camera to talk about it. She said she had no idea she's the highest paid employee until we reached out to her. Well, I guess that is until the next pay period, but she told us it's pretty funny. It's hysterical. She can also assure the taxpayers of Idaho, despite working for the department for 19 years, she's not being paid $2,000 per hour. She does believe, though, if anyone deserves that kind of cash, it's those who work in the prisons and the district offices. Oh, that's very nice. Okay, so Bronco head football coach Andy Avalos, still the highest paid employee in the state of Idaho at $1.4 million. And Boise State's tennis coach, that'd be Luke Shields, he makes a bit less at $38.47 an hour, or $80,000 a year. You know, there are a lot of us out here not making $4.1 million or even as much as Coach Avalos, but there are still a lot of us out here who have some good news to share. So we decided to head out there to hear it and bring back one of our favorite segments. Give us your good news. We're looking for some good news from anybody about anything at all. You got any good news?
Some good news, yes. My lawnmower started on the very first try this year. The even better part is I have a 15-year-old boy that's going to be able to drive the lawnmower and do all the yard work for me this year.
Ah, that is amazing.
Yes.
How's that feel?
It feels pretty darn good that I can just sit there and watch him do it, but then also correct him and help him learn.
Straight lines.
Yes.
You're a man after my own heart.
I try.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this weekend. I have my daughter's recital.
How old is she?
She's 4.
She's 4?
Yeah.
What's her song?
I think one of the songs is Better When I'm Dancing. It's the Charlie Brown. Do you know that one?
I don't think so. Do you? Hold on. From the Peanuts movie.
Yes, the Peanuts. Yeah, that's it. Better when I'm dancing. Yeah, yeah. Better when I'm dancing. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you both very, very much. What's your good news today?
Good news is I flew in from California to visit my son and daughter-in-law and granddaughter. But guess what? They're taking off and we get to babysit.
Even better.
I tried to plan it to where they flew in and we flew out.
So the good news is you get to see your son,
Right?
but you get to spend time with your grandkid.
That's the main thing. That's the main thing.
Good news.
Yep, good news.
Haley, you have some good news?
I do. Me and my boyfriend just got engaged.
Wow. Like just or like when?
Like 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yep, and we bought our house. I bought our first house.
Okay, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Most annoying thing about him?
How I have to repeat myself, I guess. How he can't comprehend like sometimes what I'm asking him to do.
I don't understand.
Exactly. Thank you for proving my point.
You guys got any good news?
You're an uncle?
Oh yeah, I just recently became an uncle.
What's it like?
It's exciting, yeah. I like seeing my little nephew, you know. He's starting to, you know, get his facial features and starting to smile, and it's really nice to see him.
That's awesome. What kind of uncle are you gonna be?
I think I'm gonna be like the fun, sporty uncle, trying to teach him sports and athleticism and stuff like that.
What did you graduate in?
Communications.
What are you gonna do with it?
I'm moving to New York in August.
To do what?
Get a job.
You don't have one?
Nope.
That doesn't sound like good news.
Yes, it is. My sister lives there, and I'm interning at home for the summer, and then I'm gonna get a job out there.
You're right, that is good news. That's awesome. That's an adventure.
It is. Why not?
4 years at Boise State?
Yep, 4 years.
How'd it go?
Good.
Can you describe it in 4 words?
Fun, crazy, different, change, and friendship.
That's 5 words.
Oh, you said 4? Oh.
You are an overachiever.
Yes, there you go.
That's awesome. Thank you both very much.
Yes, thank you.
Have a good rest of the day.
You too.
Flowers in a pothole, I'd even drive around that. Now, let me show you what's going to be happening tonight. If you're going to be spending any time outside, here's what it's looking like. You're going to be seeing temperatures in the 80s, pretty close to 80 by about 8 o'clock this evening, 10 o'clock tonight if you're still on the patio or whatever you're doing. 71 degrees, so it is going to be a nice evening. I'm not looking at any showers. Don't let the clouds fool you. They're just increasing from a storm system that will be pulling into our area. I'll provide you with the timing on that. Taking a look at the satellite, you see there are a few showers in the central mountains, but I'm watching right down here in the south over California, Nevada, as well as Utah. This area right through here, as this storm comes in, that's going to push that a little further to the north, and we're going to be in it for a chance of some rain showers. I think they're going to be pretty good rain showers. First of all, in our future cast, this will show you basically what we're expecting. So here we are on Thursday, and you can see a line of very light showers that are moving through. That's early Thursday morning. Now, Thursday, there's not much to it, but when you get into the evening, Thursday evening to early Friday morning, now there's a change. There's a chance even of a thunderstorm, and look at how this all comes together for some rain showers, and there could be a lot. Let me show you what our meter is showing right now. As we continue with this, you're going to see that we've got quite a bit of rain, so it starts out lightly into Thursday, not looking for much. But then after that, watch what happens as you get well into Friday. Oh, some of these spots, half an inch of rain for Twin Falls, over that for Mountain Home, Boise, Nampa, Caldwell, up into Ontario. Expect a wet day coming our way on Friday.
Yeah, you just spend so much time preparing and sacrificing all the rest of your life that when you do get there and you have, you feel like you have the ability to win, it's like you want to do it, and it's super motivating. So
even with that crash, Mateo finished fourth for the second time.
Yeah.
That close.
It just, yeah, fourth is like the worst place in cycling. I mean, it just doesn't, it's not good for anything, It's like not a podium, you're up there, but you didn't really do anything. So yeah, it was pretty disappointing. All I can take from it is that, I showed myself well.
Yeah, fourth is like the worst, according to Idaho's current best professional cyclist. But first is the best, right? That conversation was from last summer, just after Mateo Jorgenson wrapped up his first ever Tour de France, and he was back home in Boise recovering. But he was also training because he had another race coming up. Well, since that day, Mateo has won his first race, the Tour of Oman, then got the Best Young Rider trophy at the Paris-Nice race, and finished second at the recent Tour de Romandie race, sprinkling a few more top 10 finishes. And Mateo has just wrapped up what he calls his best spring ever. Yesterday, Mateo tweeted in length about his accomplishments this past few months, giving us a little look under the hood of his success. And it didn't come easy, he says. I can now say I've spent every penny of my salary so far this year on my own performance. Solo camps, nutrition, massage, motor pacing. It all made me better and compounded on itself. In January, I spent almost the entire month alone in an altitude hotel. He hired a nutritionist, and he's weighed himself. He logged every gram of food that he's eaten since December to make sure that he was always at race weight and adequately fueled. He said it all paid off. Yep, it sure did, Mateo. Good enough to be Idaho's best cyclist, as we mentioned, even if you were born in California. Mateo is now in France, getting ready for the upcoming season and, of course, this summer's Tour de France. All right, comments today, especially on the Lava Ridge project. This one from Jim in Meridian. He says the NEPA process, which is the National Environmental Policy Act, takes a couple of years on a project such as Lava Ridge. By law, the BLM has to follow that process, and the Secretary of the Interior cannot really comment until near the end. Senator Risch knows this and was grandstanding, says Jim in Meridian. Funny, if a large gas or oil facility were being proposed for the area, Senator Risch would be screaming to push approval in the subcommittee, says Cindy. This one here, what difference does it make where the bottle or can came from? It's about recycling, says Joe Ford. Well, it matters because somebody else pays a deposit. Then you bring back another can from out of state that you didn't pay a deposit on. The state's paying that out, but then that person brings back their can. They're also paying a deposit, so they're paying twice. So it matters to Oregon. They love the show today. Less politics, more Idaho. Keep it up. Well, we did have a story about a politician and a story about Oregon, but I know what you're saying. I get it. We love it too, especially the good news comments and that segment, because we love getting messages like this. Love that you're bringing back some of my favorites. Good news, which, as everyone in the newsroom knows, is awesome. You're right, Jason. We'll see you back here tomorrow.